Where do I start? They say life imitates art. I'm trying to paint a picture. Paint a picture that's licking you scripture. I ain't just another nigga. Another nigga with a dream. It seems we finally made him all believe. A dream to be the reason we come to achieve. The life that we would all kill for, even die for. High score, so sick, so sick. Sick and tired of these little kids talking grown shit.
First name Brett, B-R-E-T-T. Last name Evans, E-V-A-N-S.
Great levels.
Perfect.
Great levels, sir. Oh man, he finally made it. Okay, I do have a question for you.
Yeah,
because I don't remember this. We met for the very first time at CGS, no?
Yeah. I think we met, that would have been back in August, I think, early August.
Was it then?
It was before your live podcast.
We did two.
Cashmere. Yeah.
Cashmere. Oh yeah, because you were there.
Yeah. And we had met before that, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
On the video.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then I saw you again at the front row of...
Oh, man, I totally forgot that. The front row with Daniel Caesar at the Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
I turned around. Yeah.
Held it down. My sister was there.
Yeah, 100%.
I was like, yo, Brett.
Listen.
My sisters, because we got there early. Got there like super, super early so we could make sure we get to the front row. So my sister and her friend get right to the front row.
Right to the front row. Because I think we were on the bar and she was right behind me. Yeah.
Right there. And then I was like, all right, I'm leaving her here. I'm trusting that you will ensure her safety.
Yeah.
And you held it down.
100%. I said, listen. He turned around and said, listen. I said, well, come on. Yes, 100%, man. Yeah. Go do your thing. Go do your thing. You gotta look out, you know? You gotta look out.
Yeah, that was love. That was, you know, it's crazy. Like, that's how the world works, you know? Like, it's just, that's how Halifax works. That's how the universe, she blesses you, man.
That's it, man. That's it. I think when you just ask, right? It's just like, hey, listen, boom. You know, it's, now Halifax is a nice place. People are super respectful here, I find, in some aspects. Maybe not so much in others.
What are the aspects that they're maybe not so much?
I don't know. I think
be honest here. You're on a Change in Narrative podcast,
yeah,
baby.
It's 100%. I don't know. I think a lot of public issues. I guess I can only speak on what I understand, and that's cannabis, right? I understand kind of the rules and regulations and what we kind of fought for a while. And yeah, I find that you have to speak very, 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 very loud in Halifax for somebody to hear you, and apply to anything else. It's a difficult thing. So,
is that a bad thing though? Just having to speak loud?
No, I think speaking loud is amazing. I think if you have to speak loud in the context for the person to hear you, I think that person then has to realize they have to open themselves up a little bit more, So if you're talking to the government saying, this is what we want, this is what we want, this is what we want, and you have to increasingly get louder and louder and louder for them to answer, the government should understand that they shouldn't have to get that loud. There should be talks being had all the time. Everything that has to come together. That's the big thing with the city. I find that... it should be more open. You should be able to go in and just have a conversation about anything and draw on a conclusion to any problem in that we're fighting with here. You know what I mean? And I don't think we really saw that too much when we were fighting for legalization and different things.
Do you think there's white privilege? Do you think your male white privilege helps or hinders you in the fight for cannabis?
My male white privilege. I don't think it. Unfortunately, I think that it helps me, and I think that that's not a good thing.
What do you mean?
I don't think that I should be. Anything should happen based off of anything to do with race or color, and everybody should kind of be having open arm in this industry, and. I think that there's things that, I think just, white privilege, I tried to understand and understand how it would be applied to me in just everyday everything to do with this industry.
Because you're a North End Halifax native.
North End Halifax native.
Okay.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, you look at the industry that we're in, you look at how many disappropriated the numbers on arrest for, any minority versus a white male. It's huge disappropriated. And that means that you're not even allowed to file for anything legal in this industry. So if you were to get any type of charge or anything like that for cannabis or possession or anything in that realm, you're not even allowed to be in the industry now that is legal. So how does that make sense? You know what I mean? I find that very, where people are being whole groups of people that were disappropriated with the numbers of arrests based on the North End or wherever, Right. And now a whole group of people that we arrested, gave charges to, now cannabis is legal and they're not allowed to be in the industry, So those are, it's crazy. And it's like, I think that just because I didn't get arrested for something doesn't mean that, I should be able to have the right, like, I think you should be able to look at it and go, you know what, this is what it is. Does this person have the means and ability to get in this industry? Boom, that's it.
Right.
You can't hinder somebody on the arrest that now is made legal.
Okay, so watch this. I have a classic Charlemagne God question for you.
What's up?
How do you use your white privilege to combat prejudice? Because this is very interesting that you're saying this, because I agree. It's how do you go back on how do you treat people now that the legalization of cannabis exists for those who have crimes when cannabis was illegal? And most of those are often people of color. And so as people of color need allies, we do.
100%.
So
yeah.
I'm always curious how, and not to make it a race thing, but it's where we are, it's where we live, it's the reality. So I'm always curious, like, how do people who don't have to go through some of the struggle that people of color have to go through, what are they doing to make it easier for people of color to be able to gain access to this industry? Because I guess that's real action, right? Like,
exactly.
we tweet and like Instagram and like talk about change, but it's like, all right, what are you actually doing like on Thursday? You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%. I think that's huge. I think it's looking at, in my case with Doob Tool or with what we're doing just creatively, I would want to see a place where I can go around. I want to be more diverse in networking to understand who these people are that would come to me and say, listen, I have, I'm not allowed to enter the industry because of a charge I caught back in 2000,
right.
Or anything. If there's people that realize that they want to enter and they can enter, I would want to hear it 100%.
Right.
And be able to say, you know what, listen, like, everybody has skills and everybody has the ability to make a team stronger. And that's the big thing, is just going out there and understanding kind of who these people are, what they're facing, and then how do we get around that, right? How is that, like, how do we work this out? And that's the thing, is like the voice. What I love coming on podcasts, doing different things and networking, is understanding who these people, who are the people that are coming, who is everybody that wants to enter this industry,
right?
Whether a charge, no charge,
they can or can't.
Exactly.
Right.
And just trying to have the conversation. Enough young people, or enough people, period, just coming in and going, this is I want to do this, but this is what's hindering me. Oh, listen, I might be able to help with this one aspect of that, or I may be able to help with this whole thing,
Right.
So it's just coming together. And once you have like a team that you can rely on and build off of, sky's the limit.
Yeah, we was talking about that earlier. Hold on, let me introduce the show so we can get to the shits.
All right,
because I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you're here.
Amazing.
Welcome.
I'm very happy to be here.
That's what I'm saying, y'all. Welcome everybody to the Change the Narrative Podcast, episode 63.
Yeah, 63.
Yeah, 63. If you don't know, you should know by now. I have a guest in the house. Have a cool human that we cross paths for a reason. Like, that's all I can sum it up to be. You know what I mean? So Brett Evans is in the building.
Thank you.
Brett Evans of Doob Tool.
Yeah.
Is in the building. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
big
for
time.
sure,
I reached out, said, "Hey, listen, you know what I mean? Let's chop it up.
Yeah,
let's talk."
Yeah.
I think that I was trying to think. I was like, when did the first time that we actually like reached out to each other? I was in Egypt. The first time that you reached out to me, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I was in Egypt, and I remember I followed you on Instagram, looked at your stuff, said, I got a message. I got to reach out to this
Love,
guy.
thank you.
And what's going on? Blah, blah, chopping up. I said, listen, I'll get with you once I get back. And that's when I think we met for the
CGS. Yeah. That was dope. That's you know what? Like, it's cool when the internet manifests itself in reality and you get to see what happened. That's how Dwayne and Peter and I even started CTN, from Instagram. So I love it. I'm involved in the cannabis industry as a consumer, and we've seen it become legal, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. Because it's now legal, the industries are becoming like, there's new industries that have never existed before. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of confusion in the cannabis world. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Most people don't know.
Exactly. Listen, I sometimes wonder if I really know. It's like, I guess when you're the first G20 country to do something like legalize cannabis, and nobody else has done it besides smaller states in the United States. In Uruguay was the first country that ever federally went legal.
Okay.
And so when you're the first G20 country, and you know that when you do something,
what's G20?
Like a part of the G20 summit collection.
Okay.
So it's when you're a G20 country, you're everybody's looking at. When you make a move like that, everybody is looking at that country, right? And they're going to go, you know what? When it happens here, because this big country just did something, it's going to eventually happen. And when it reaches here, we want to be able to study and work, what happened to them? How did Canada do it? What kinks did they, develop, whether in the economy or in society or what have you? And so, I think there's mass confusion on kind of what's going on, but I find too, like, even a place that's very liberal, like like Halifax was with, they're very liberal when it comes to cannabis. One of the highest consumers, if not the highest consumers in cannabis in Canada, are in Halifax. Yeah,
really.
Exactly. Yeah.
Based on what? How you know that?
I know that there was a study that came out a little while ago. It was based off of I don't know the name exactly, but what they do is they test the wastewater so they go to the waste plant in a city or in a metropolis, and they study the wastewater of the per capita, and they measure the amount of how something metabolizes in your body, so the amount of whatever drug it is that they're looking for. And they can kind of build a rough estimate on understanding how many people per capita on those levels compared to the other places that they do it on. And Halifax ranked the highest when it came to cannabis consumption. Now, there's a lot to be said about that study, and that, there's obviously many ways in which you could kind of counteract that or have an argument toward it. But if just off loose numbers, just roughly, if that's anywhere near what they were saying, Halifax.
We're a high consumer of cannabis at the least. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think once you let the rules relax in some aspect of what people actually want, you start to see, especially when you come very, you're not charging as much, or you're not doing, where somebody can walk down. So how many times you walk down Spring Garden Road before cannabis was legal, you would smell a joint?
Of course.
100%. You would walk down. Nobody said anything. It was, all good, right? Once you kind of allow that, you start to see a culture flourish anyway, right? So you start to see the kind of cannabis culture flourish before legalization ever hits.
It's going to.
Yeah, it's going to.
Right.
100%. Right. And so people then, whether it's going to or not going to, people are going to go, I'm going to do this. Well, you saw that with dispensaries, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just going, I'm going to get my piece of the pie before.
How did dispensaries and how do they still remain open and it's legal?
I think it's.
But it's illegal, but it's legal.
Mm-hmm. It's illegal for them to operate, right?
Right. Dispensaries.
And it was before legalization as well.
Right.
It was what they relied on, and what I think the government really thought of was just like basically. The people, there wasn't a lot of complaints. I remember hearing them saying, listen, we're only going to enforce something if there's a complaint. And that was a big thing. And security was a big thing, I would think, in a lot of those dispensaries, of just making sure people move away and leave and don't linger around or don't hang out, or you know what I mean? So they'd be trying to get people to just kind of keep moving, because the mass amounts of people that would go to these dispensaries.
All the time.
Lines. Lines,
Always.
you know? And so, and it seemed like they were starting to pop up everywhere. And that was it. I think they just said, you know what, we're going to do it for as long as we can. And then eventually, boom, boom, you started to see, you know, kind of one by one.
Right.
But yeah, they did it for a while. I remember, I would say a good solid 2 years, maybe, or even more. Some of them a lot longer than that.
Right.
Where it was like you're starting to see them everywhere. Basically, in every district, you could go to a dispensary and grab something. You know.
Yeah. Did that? I guess I'm curious, like how the black market is affected by, like, the black market will always exist.
It will always exist. Yeah. 100%. Like, I mean, in some degree, I guess that's what they're, and that's how, well, I mean, I don't know what they think, but how I would look at it, it'd be like, to a degree. I mean, you can go in some places and people are still bootlegging alcohol.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a very small section, and it's a very small, you know what I mean?
Right.
But there'll always be an aspect of the black market.
Right.
And I think you got to think too, is like, you got to look at the regulations that are there, and anything outside of those is technically the black market. So it'd be like, you know, if you're, like even.
But the black market is like buymyweedonline.com.
Exactly that. Or have like a delivery person come and go, hey, how you doing? Listen, or on an app in some places. Right. You know what I mean? You can go on different apps now and actually order cannabis right to your door.
So,
you know?
I guess now that it's legal, how does that still happen? Like on an app, like in front of people, and like why are the police not buying weed from buymyweedonline.com and like it getting shut down? Like,
I don't know. I think I think really honestly what I believe is that they are trying to understand what they're doing themselves. Right? Okay. They're like trying to figure, we're 3 months in of trying to figure out how to do this. You're hearing about shortages all over, you know, the province and different parts in the country. And it's like, and you still have the whole edible market still illegal, right? Because you can't buy it was 1 year after legalization. Right. That edibles were going to be introduced as legal, and that they were going to start selling. So they're still trying to figure out flower sales and oil sales. And then, so I think they're just too swamped to even go after some of these people. Some of these guys are just like doing their thing. And I think maybe eventually it'll catch up to them at some point. But I think like, you know, they're just like, holy smokes, we're just trying to figure out what we're doing here. And they're getting, you know, massive amounts of demand, right? They, you know, sucks a lot of that demand. When you knock down all those dispensaries, people almost start going there because of convenience, not even because of quality. You know what I mean? They just go there because it's just there, right? So
that's a whole other beast.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
See, and I like we just dove right into it, but I dig it. Like I dig it heavy. But I want the people to know a little bit more about you, and who you are, and how you know, got into cannabis, why, business, like. Give me the dirt, bro. Give me spill the tea, man.
This is it. Like I started. I guess I should start even before that. I was diagnosed with arthritis when I was 7. I had juvenile arthritis in my ankles and in my knees, joints in my body.
Okay.
And so I live with chronic pain all the way up until I would say about 21, when I was in real estate. I was super unhealthy, pockets of fluid and inflammation and all of this all over my body. I can't do this. Like I can't, live like feeling like this anymore.
Right.
So make a long story short, with other complications, they couldn't give me the anti-inflammatory medication. And so basically they said, we'll give you cortisone shots like every few months. And I said, you know what? I just can't be pumping that type of poison in my body every couple months. Like there has to be a solution for this. And I had a friend of mine give me cannabis ointment, cream, topical cream.
Okay.
I said, okay, I'm going to try this. Boom. Started to try using flower as well, smoking, different things. So I was, the oil, everything that was coming through, I was just recepting to. Like it was just, everything was just coming through. I felt great. And I went to my rheumatologist, basically told them, listen, can you give me a license for this? I want to have everything legit. I want this to be able to come in, order off a website, through the licensed producers at that time. But file under Health Canada's rules and regulations. They said, don't even come and talk to us about that. We don't want anything about it. We don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Go do your own thing. So I said, man, if I'm in this position, I wonder how many other people are in this position. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I started a group called the Canadian Pro Cannabis Group. And and what we did was basically we connected patients and physicians. And so these patients that couldn't get understanding or information about medical cannabis, they then could connect to a cannabis educated physician,
right,
and get that information that they needed, whether they just wanted more information or licensing or what have you. So we paired the two up, we connected the two. Okay. And so the Canadian Pro Cannabis Group started in 2014, and it's just been advocating ever since. Pretty much, you're running a business, but yet you're running an organization with a message,
right?
And so trying to end the stigma around cannabis.
I was gonna say, what is that message?
Yeah, ending the stigma, ending the misconception of the plant, right? And kind of what damage it did in our society. You know what I mean? So it was like really going in there and going, you know what, this is going to become legal. This is going to be something that's going to be in everybody's face. And so you got to be comfortable with it, and you got to really understand what it is as the truth,
Right. What damage has been done?
It's been tons of damage. I mean, you just look at the devastation of just arrests. You know what I mean? You're looking at arrests of people that were going to jail. I think up until 2 years ago, the person that did the most time in jail, I think, was like 76 years. He was still in jail, and they let him out. This was about 2 years ago. And
wow.
Yeah, almost got a life sentence for cannabis, right? And so it's like all of these...
Cannabis what? Sale?
Yeah, sale, distribution.
Gotcha.
Yeah, distribution. But I think of something very minimal, very small. You're thinking now would be, nothing, right? So it's like, or you would be able to, more have a case. So it's like these different types of things. But it was making sure that people understood, what was available, and that there was an alternative medicine, and you didn't have to go straight to prescription or straight to as that the only option, so this alternative was there, connecting the patients and connecting the cannabis educated physicians was basically, you know what I mean? It was just key. And then after that, as that started to roll, you started to see clinics starting to pop up now in Halifax and different places. So then we just started to refer them right to these clinics. And yeah, it was an amazing thing.
So it was just an online platform.
It was just an online platform. Nice. And what we would do as well, we would go and do like mobile consults. So we would just go into like the actual person's home themselves. A lot of them were too sick, maybe didn't want to leave or didn't want to go and meet us wherever we were. Okay. We would come out and meet them.
Come to the people.
That's it. If you have to, right? You have to, if you're going to do it, you have to do it at 110%. And, we even set up as like the library, just simply as the library, so many people would pass by and you would just kind of, talk to these people and just tell them, what it is and provide them that information to move forward,
Right. Question.
Yeah.
How come you keep touching the mics?
I don't know. Is it going in and out? No?
No, I'm just noticing that you're doing it.
I don't know. Maybe just have it. Not even have it, but just kind of as we're chatting. I don't know.
I'm just curious. I just like asking questions. Okay, so you started your organization, Pro Cannabis.
Yeah, Canadian Pro Cannabis Group.
Canadian Pro Cannabis Group, and then But you were in real estate, you said before.
Yeah, I got into real estate when I was 19. I was the youngest real estate agent in the province for the time. For the time that I was there. And they let me know. Yeah, I think it was 6 months in, and they were like, "Oh, you're the youngest in the province." I said, that was it. I just signed up one day. I was in university. I said I didn't want to be here anymore. Yeah. I said I would love sell real estate. I think that'd be cool to understand property and understand how that works. And instead of going and trying to like get a job at an actual brokerage, they just offered me to go to courses and actually get my license to be an agent. So I said, yeah, I'll take the opportunity. Took the opportunity and jumped into real estate at 19.
So how do you get from real estate to cannabis from like your you're not selling services with the organization, but now you have Doob Tool. So like, how do you go from real estate to the cannabis industry in two different kind of streams? And like, what from real estate are you still using? That no,
100%. I for me, this what I guess ties it all together. When I was in real estate, I created Doob Tool. I had, I wanted a tool that I could use while I was on the go, because I like to go camping, hiking, different things. I go out there and I would try to roll a joint, try to prepare cannabis or transport cannabis, and I was using sticks and different things. I just had my own little kit that I used. And I said, there's got to be something out there that is already designed like this, and we can, I can just buy that. Yeah. And there wasn't. Right. So I said, okay, let me sit down. If I was going to do it, how would I do it? Yeah. And I just cut up a shoebox with duct tape and a cell phone case, and I made my first prototype. And I'm a visual learner, so I just needed to see it. I just needed to have it in my hand. Yeah. And so I looked at that, put it in the box, put it up on the shelf, and said, you know what, there's no way. I don't have any money. I don't know how. I don't have any product development experience. Right. But how would I move forward with this? Right. But I do have another idea, and that's to do the Canadian Pro Cannabis Group and be able to run this organization, and I can be able to build a reputation and build, a kind of a network of people that are already in this industry. Right. And that when that ends up fading out, gotcha, because it's clinics and information, and that will become so popular accessible here. Yeah. When that fades out, I'll launch Doob Tool off of that network that I've already built through the Canadian, because it's the same industry, it's the same thing. And so that's basically how I needed to start the Canadian Pro Cannabis Group in order to start Doob Tool.
Right, to leverage.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Cool.
And that's what we did. And that's exactly how it moved. And then in 2016, everything kind of, all the dots were connected, and we moved for starting Prototype. And we got involved with engineers and designers, and we started to break this down and understand how this would actually work and how we'd actually manufacture it.
So you mentioned team a lot. You say we. So first of all, what is Doob Tool, and who is we that's involved in the creation and the longevity of Doob Tool?
In the longevity. Myself, I basically... day-to-day operations. I invented the product and more or less have the vision of where we want to take this. Right. I have a business partner, Chris. Okay. Business partner, great friend, puts everything into it just like I do. And then we have a back-end guy that does all of our IT. Okay. And he basically focuses on everything that I actually have absolute no clue on what to do. You take care of this.
You need that.
You need that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Listen, I have no clue how this is going to get done, but what can we come up with? Right. Oh, this, and then you just get further and further. Right. So it's the three of us, and we just basically sit down and break down each task that is presented to us, and with kind of the infancy of the industry, it's going crazy in every direction. Right. So, your strategies and your business plan can change within an email. You know what I mean? Within an email, right? So, we broke that down. We put it all together, and we created Doob Tool. And, by having these designs and going to understand manufacturing, understand product development. Right. It's unbelievable.
So you said you had a bunch of things in the shoebox, and this manifested from prototype 1 to you're at prototype what now?
We're at basically phase 1, and that took us around 7 prototypes to get to phase 1.
Okay.
Phase 1 is launched now, and basically we just run off of a build, measure, learn type of mindset.
Right.
You build it, you measure how it's doing in the industry, and you learn from that and change the next one. Build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, right?
Okay, so at this stage, what is in the Doob Tool? What is the Doob Tool?
So the Doob Tool is a cannabis case and multi-tool. It has 10 different tools and over 20 different ways to use them.
Okay.
And it just allows you to transport and prepare cannabis and cannabis products. So it has everything that you need. It has a dabbing tool, scissors. It has a poker packer tool for pipes and joints, a brush, a roach clip, and it's all in a smell-proof case that allows you to carry it with you wherever you're at, as well as the top cover removes as a rolling tray, so you're able to have a rolling tray kind of wherever you're at.
Everything.
All
the essentials.
Yeah, all the essentials, exactly. We have some more ideas and, trying to understand what else to put in it and what people want, you know what I mean? What they don't like about this version and things like that, right?
So what did you learn from prototype 1 to 7? Like, what did that look like?
That's the thing I'm really reflecting on right now. I think that's, a big part of my life is understanding, what I have learned and what mistakes I've made so that I don't repeat those on phase 2. And that's the thing. What are those mistakes? What did we learn from this? I think the biggest thing is really understanding time. Understanding where the time is, where you're at with time consistently. I found we were blowing a lot of maybe through some deadlines and different things like this, which will slow everything down as a process.
Right.
So time is something that I really needed to be more conscious on.
Okay.
But I definitely understand as learning. And I would think another thing too is the removal of self-doubt, really sitting down and trying to remove that voice of going, you have no product development skill, or listen, don't do it that, don't go too big, just kind of, and you're limiting this limited talk in your mind, right? And so trying to understand how that plays a part.
How do you get rid of it?
I would have no clue, man. I think you're working at doing that for your whole life.
How have you quieted that voice?
I would think by moving forward. I think that voice for me, and at least in my case, it generated fear. Okay, it's talking to you, you can't do it. As I approach it, I'm getting nervous and fearful that I can't do it because I'm listening to this.
Right.
And then going ahead and doing it anyway. Right, moving forward with that, being nervous about being something because of this limited talk, this self-limit talk in your mind, and then just going and actually doing it, actually coming and doing the thing, and then you realize, oh, it's not that bad, or I did it, you know what I mean? It's okay, I didn't, it didn't turn out that way.
Right.
And then as you prove to yourself, I guess in my case, as I proved to myself, that it was only just in your mind, right? It's only just in your mindset.
Yeah. We made that, and I'll make that parallel to the conversation we had earlier to communication and how often people are fearful of having conversations. And it's like, once you have the conversation, you realize that it really wasn't that hard to have that conversation. So why are you fearful of the conversation? The same reason why we talked about artists being scared of learning the business and the numbers. It's because why not? The sooner you know them, the sooner you know what it is you need in order to achieve. So it's almost counterproductive to be fearful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, but you have
to be, because you have to overcome it.
Yeah, exactly.
The fucking mind.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And that's it. And there's so many ways, like I find myself too, I might be, you eliminate the fear in one aspect, and then, you do it in this has to be applied to at least in every part of my life, I try to apply to just get over this fear of whatever it is that you're doing.
Right.
But it's that consistency of doing it, even though you might be nervous, or you might be fearful, or even though you've came up with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't, or you know what I mean, knowing and understanding it for just self-doubt or that limited talk, that negative talk in the back of your mind, right? I think it's super important to move forward. And by having those conversations and ripping that Band-Aid off, whatever it is, in whatever context, it's just, okay, this is it. How do we fix this? Or what can we do here? Or how can we put this together or create that,
Right. So you overcame the fear. You got from prototype 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 7. You're sitting in understanding what you've learned, what people think, what changes to make. What do you do now?
Now it's just understanding how with the resources that we've had, right, that we've built now, these resources through all of these prototypes and to where we're at right now. Right. Now, how do we just strengthen those resources to now pump out phase 2? Because phase 2 requires almost double what you're doing now in order to pump out the next phase.
So when you say resources, what do you
resources, whether you're talking about engineers, whether you're talking about designers, who are better designers, where can I go to get a better designer that would be more understanding of my product and the industry that my product is in, right? So those types of going to each thing, whether it be manufacturing and saying, okay, instead of being able to do 100,000 units a month, can you do 200,000 units a month? You know what I mean? Right. Going there and saying, okay, no, well, what would it take to be able to do that? And just each facet you have to go through and build, make that stronger, right? Right.
I'm finding it very interesting as you say this, because in my film production and development, it was, let's just get the bare necessities of everything. And then kind of when you're in this creative film storytelling world, and I was told this from the beginning, you're going to buy equipment and upgrade equipment for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So I feel that way too. Okay, I've got under the bare necessities of the things. Now, how do we upgrade this piece? What does that look like in order to improve this aspect? And now we need a wireless lav mic, because in order to do this type of film, we need this next tier of equipment. So I get what you're saying, and because it's like, okay, we've got it. How do we? Because once the pieces are there, forever you're just fine tuning,
like a well-oiled machine, like we were saying, right? Yeah. Like a well-oiled machine, right? You have everything that it needs. Right. You just got to make it run smoother and smoother. And what is it? Okay, what do you tweak to make it go just a little bit more smoother? A little bit more smooth. So and then it's just that tweaking, whether it be equipment, whether it be, manufacturing for us, or resources, or accounting, or what have you. You just look at what is lacking, or what's kind of not working at the speed you need it to. Right. And how do you better that?
And assessing time and experience, right? Like, because you've been in Doob Tool for how long?
Yeah, we've been this has been 3 years. We launched after 2 years of development. Yeah.
What is it like? Because entrepreneurship in its sexy version is not creating a product for 2 years that you don't get to talk about and sell and promote. What's that like?
I guess for me, I really just focused on...
Not to interrupt you, because that's what business really is. It's not this, hey, it's quick, it happened, I'm on Instagram, it feels good, we made all this money. It's like, no, actually, you're doing a lot of shitty work that doesn't get celebrated at all.
100%. That's what it's funny. It's like people want to be an entrepreneur until you have to do kind of what entrepreneurs have to do. And that's not sit back and count money. That's, eat KD for 6 months, because you will not spend another dollar on anything other than getting a better end result. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it comes down to like, just basically how bad do you want it, right? How bad is it that you want that thing? What are you willing, like we were talking about before, like, what are you willing to sacrifice, right? Can you sacrifice something to get that, And that's the thing I look at, like, when that master class, these different people that you're listening to, they all have that mentality of just, it was like Doob Tool, or I didn't even think of anything else, because it was just that. It was just, that was the option, right?
So what did you sacrifice in order to create Doob Tool?
I stayed in my apartment for 2 years. You know what I mean? I stayed in my apartment. I would see my friends. I'd go out, do different things. But my devotion was to understand how I could do this in the best way. And it was like, once we started to move and as things progressed, then you can kind of open up a little bit more because you've now put resources together that are doing a lot of that work for you, So now I don't have to sit down with a caliper and measure every screw. Now I have a manufacturer that can do that, and they can just email me those measurements. You know what I mean? So it's like, those are the big things, like, going out there and just starting. Like I said before, even our first prototype, it was just cardboard and duct tape. Yeah. Like, that's no money. It was just cut and put it together. Yeah. But in my head, when I had it in my hand, I probably figured out, 30% of what was going to be the problem if it was designed like this or this.
Right.
I was like, wow, okay.
All by starting.
Just by starting.
Duct tape and cardboard.
Just start, And so, I think that was the big thing. Like, I just needed to know that it didn't matter how I moved forward, as long as I was moving forward.
Facts.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't matter. Yeah, exactly. The speed was irrelevant. I was in another situation, and I think too, because of the industry we were launching in, we knew when the industry was starting.
Right. Yeah.
So you knew, like, that's kind of weird. Normally, the industry that a company gets in has been around for forever, right? But the industry wasn't technically an industry yet.
Right. Cannabis. Yeah.
Until legalization.
Right.
And that's when they were going to talk about how accessories were going to be, So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's a strange time. It's a strange time, but it's amazing.
What amazes you the most?
Honestly, I would say, a lot of things amaze me with this industry and how new it is. But the technology that's coming out right now, and what is coming out as a result of people now having access to the resources and to the funding to go out there and actually create what they had in their head after a hike. You know what I mean? Or whatever that may look like for that person. So it's like, now people are willing to invest and get into this because there is an industry that's forming and birthing. So looking at that amazes me. Watching the infancy of something, and maybe 60, 70 years from now, if I'm still alive, I can look back at when it started and kind of move forward with that, right? I think that's going to be a cool reflection.
If you could dream about the cannabis industry 70 years from now, what does it look like?
Wow, what does it look like? That's a great question. I see it very open, to be honest. I see it given back into the privatized hands and the people that could just go open a mom and pop shop, or somebody that, bakes amazing edibles, obviously following certain guidelines. They can have a beautiful shop that you can go there, drink a coffee, smoke a joint if you want, or have an edible, or just have a beautiful pastry, whatever it is. Like, I want to see that creativity in cannabis. The government doing what they're doing, it eliminates a lot of that privatized, and somebody could come in with a cool idea or a cool solution to a problem that's still in the industry, right? But we have to rely on kind of one entity to do to solve those problems. Gotcha. So in 70 years, I see a beautiful flourishing industry that's moving incredibly quick. Trends and everything are kind of just snapping through because technology is just increasing that speed. Just a beautiful. Yeah, hopefully they all have Doob Tools in there.
Your adjective of choice is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Consistently. Mm-hmm. Why that word?
I don't know. I think I actually had somebody say that the other day. I use beautiful a lot. I don't know. It's just it's a word that has pretty much been ingrained in my mindset, I guess. I try to look at things and see the beauty in them. You know what I mean? And I think you can even tie that back to being an entrepreneur, or what an entrepreneur, has to do to be an entrepreneur or to launch anything. I think if you're launching something, it's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And then, unless you look at every aspect of it and love it, I don't love when something goes wrong, but I love that I'm in the process of making it go right at some point. And so when you look at it like that, I guess in my case, I don't want to preach and say this is how everyone has to think, but in my case, I just want to look at, the cup half full. Because if I look at the cup half empty, I'm just going to dwell in that negativity, and this is going to be more of a thing than it really needs to be.
Right.
I can look at it positive. We can sit down with the team or whoever and go, how are we going to get around this? Get around it. And then you just feel that momentum of you just overcome something else. So let's keep, moving forward.
Yeah. You talk a lot about perspective, and there's a way, and I think perspective is the thing that's changed my entire life and way of thinking. And it came from the perspective of failure and what that meant and what that actually meant.
That actually meant, exactly.
Because, wins and losses, W's and L's, like it could be wins and lessons. And then you never lose.
Exactly. Well, like, yeah, failure is just a mindset as well. Like somebody could have that aspect of their mind. A lot of people would just have a mind that, they look at everything as a failure, or they look at some things as a failure, or they're hindered by looking at something as a failure. And I think that you define what a failure is, but I think you see what society defines a failure is. What is this? This is what a failure looks like in our society, or this is what, a failure in business looks like, and I think that you can contribute that to looking at yourself and saying, I'm not there yet, or it's taken 2 years. Why is it taking 2 years? Somebody else would be able to do this, It's just looking at it and going, you know what? I didn't fail in anything. I've learned from all of these things. I think failure for me, I define if I made the same mistake twice.
Right.
If I made the same mistake twice, then
insanity.
Exactly. Then I think that's how I define failure.
Right.
And if I didn't learn the first time, or if I did, even worse, if I did think I learned and I still did it. But if I didn't learn the first time, that's kind of, and I make the same mistake again, that's what I kind of dictate as failure.
You talk about societal pressures. How do we, especially because a lot of the stuff we are kind of aware of, a lot of us are, we know it's happening. So we kind of, we tuck it away, which means we know it's there. We know these feelings exist. We're pushing them aside. So it's like, okay, so we often know what's happening. We often know that we're being influenced negatively. We often know that we shouldn't be on social media as much as we are. But how do you know that? Like, what is the difference between knowing and acting and doing? Like, what is that for you? Like, how do you go through that?
I think for me, I look at that in anything. I try to look at something in my life or something that I see or something that I want to do and understand, like, again, what can you do right now? Even the smallest little thing, like you might look at, environmental problems and wanting to, impact in that way, not using straws, not, using these kind of, 5-second type of disposable items that we throw away at alarming rates. Right. So it's like, okay, well, what can I do now? I can't go out and I'm still learning, so I can't go out and tell everybody, listen, this is what you have to do. Okay, well, I'm just not going to have a straw when I go to Subway, or I'm not going to do this. You just little by little start to introduce things into your life to where they become normal, right? And I think that if you're moving to conquer anything, that normalcy is what will get you to that end goal. Doesn't matter the speed. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to in your mind, hold yourself to it being the speed that you have to conquer, going fast, right? You're not looking at
what is fast?
I don't know though.
But that's the question. It's relative.
Yeah,
it's relative
what
to anyone.
Fast? Like
right?
I look at 2 years of development in Doob Tool, and I think that that's very slow. But then somebody that goes, well, you did it in your basement apartment. You know what I mean? Looking at doing all this and doing it at the early stages. Yeah. That's amazing because you didn't have any product development skill, and you kind of learned it as you were going, right? But then I look for phase 2, like I want to do it in 4 months now, what I did in 2 years. You know what I mean? I want to fine tune that even tighter and be able to go out. So it's just speed is that, and time I think really plays a big thing, and I think a lot of people think about that, and it could be kind of.
How much of that do you think is impacted? How much of that do you think is affected by the fact that most of us are like late 30s to teenagers. Like, if we don't know shit yet, like we haven't lived enough life to know shit. And when we're learning a lot of our information from people who don't know shit and sources that don't care if it's true or not, like, how do we, like, we are processing these things at a time in our lives where our brains are like, what the fuck?
Right.
Without this machine.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's scary.
It's 100%. Like, I think age, another thing, I think a lot of people dwell on age as well. And
what do you mean?
I think a lot of people look at age as a factor or a bigger factor than what it really is.
Okay.
I think people look at it and go, oh, you're a young entrepreneur. Oh, you know, this is a seasoned vet. This is a da-da-da-da-da. We hold that. But when I was in real estate, I realized that I was putting more time into educating myself about the industry and what was new and what was happening than the person that has been in the industry for 40 years, because their well-oiled machine is paying their matches their quality of life. Right? What they want to achieve from their business is what they're achieving, so they can kind of just coast for a while, right? And you can either just coast right into retirement, or you can, you know, keep going or what have you. And so I'm looking at, and that's what I think with younger people or with whoever, going in there and getting that information and learning can, you know, move everything forward to where a seasoned vet is up against somebody that, you know, understands the industry. You know what I mean? You might have somebody that understands, you know, the big distribution guys, but then they're sitting down with people that know all about drop shipping and e-commerce. And they're in the almost two generations looking at each other that are both very educated in their own section. And they're looking at each other going, well, you're a kid, you don't know anything. And he's like, well, I just created, you know, what you've done in 30 years, I've done in 30 months. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and it's just a strange dynamic because we have that, that access to information. Right? I think it's because we have that access and it's implemented in pretty much every facet of our lives, right?
Right, because we are expediting our life, our learning. I don't even know if necessarily it's our learning, but I know it's our data input. How much of that we're actually stopped, because you said this earlier, which I thought was really nice, is sitting back and assessing what you've learned. Not just learning and, okay, cool, got this new information, went in the brain. What's the next thing I can put in my brain? But saying, okay, what did I actually learn? You go to class, you take your notes, and then how often do you ever look at your notes again?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I think that part is vital, because I don't know. We've talked about this, creating a plan and then never revisiting the plan. I'm actually going through strategy again. It's been far too many months, but I look at my website and I'm like, a lot of this shit is outdated because thinking has changed.
Exactly.
So let's reassess the plan, because it's important to make sure that the plan matches what you're doing today. So
yeah, understanding, I like that. Like, I think you have to understand the area in which you're playing in. Like, once you understand the area and then you understand what rules are applied to that area, like I look at just, you know, launching phase 1 of Doob Tool and understanding that arena that I'm in, that area that I'm in. Right. Okay, what do I need to do now? Right? What are the most important things at this stage, at this moment? Right. What are the most important things to do at this moment? Like, maybe in the long run, understanding this is something I have to understand. But right now in this arena that I'm in, how do I get to the next point? And then we'll get to understanding that a little bit more, right? And so that's it. It's just, you know, I think you have to really be aware. I think most people that create anything are very aware. Right? They're very aware people, and they understand their faults or try at least to understand their faults.
You're forced to in entrepreneurship. You have to figure out
creating anything, art or anything, right?
Because you're always seeking self-reflection and you're seeking self-improvement, which therefore means you're digging in and trying to figure out the shit. And back to the thing that the point you mentioned earlier about like the seasoned vet and the like, it's interesting you say that because I see it as experience and I see it as reps, but you make a very good point. Like we can learn faster. We can learn more faster. So I've got 18 master classes sitting on this whiteboard. Like if I do one of those a week for, what's that take, 4 months? Like that's a semester of school.
Exactly.
That I can do from home for, in real dollars, $65. You know what I mean?
Well, I think like, how look back at it and think, what did your mother or father have to do if they wanted to get that same course from that same person 30 years ago? How much would it have been, and what would they have had to do to even sit and listen to this person? So you just got that for $60. So that can, you almost use that as a measurement of understanding how fast, because the access to information is so fast, right? I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying, I wonder, from the time that we wake up, say, a day that you're just kind of lazy and you're waking up out of bed and you jump on your phone and you go through it and you read things and you're processing that information. I wonder how much information we process in that short period of time or just through social media, and look at, did people 35 years ago, how much could they process? Like, are we processing a day's worth of their information by the time we even get out of bed? They would have taken all of that information that we have just processed by scrolling through our phone, and everything that's stimulating our brain might have taken somebody in the 80s or 90s a whole day to accept that same amount of information.
I think that's also interesting too, because if you were to ask us what we consumed before we got out of bed off of our phone, I bet you we couldn't tell you.
I couldn't, yeah.
So that's the other side of it, is like we're putting all this information into our brains, but how much of it are we actually aware of, and do we even need? Or
plays into like subconscious thoughts, and then you're getting into whole, like how much of it is just sitting subconsciously that you don't even realize is manifesting itself in your day-to-day habits or behaviors, and yet you didn't even realize that you have picked it up or are continuously feeding that, whether by whatever brands or what have you.
Think about the shit that we fall asleep watching on Netflix that just plays in our brains as we're sleeping.
You're just listening to it, just, putting it in its individual files and categories within, and you don't realize when you wake up, like, how does that play a part on? I don't know. It's something to think about. It's something to think about for sure.
Oh, stoner thoughts.
That's it, man. That's it.
Oh, shit, man. Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy when you sit and think of it. I think, like, whether it comes down to, again, it just comes down to reflecting. If you just reflect on a situation, either emotionally or unemotionally, you can get two different perspectives and understand it in two different ways. Yeah. But it's sitting down and just taking that time to sit and think. Like, you look at people that did, unbelievable things in life, and they just said, well, they would sit in hours by themselves. And just understand, or go for walks. You hear, like, Steve Jobs, you could never get him in a room. He'd be walking around or take you for a walk. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you just walk and talk, like, and just always continuously, trying to put something together. So it's like, I think it's something to think about. The world and everything that we live in right now is changing fast. It's changing so fast. So you got to be ready for it, I guess, or you got to just understand how you can harness it in the right way. Yeah. To move yourself and move your passion and your everything forward, your creation, whatever that is, however that manifests itself, just by moving forward. I think that's super important. What
are your last thoughts you want to leave the people with? This is a fucking great conversation, man. I love it.
I had a blast, man. That's it. I'd love just to sit down and chop it up, just see what happens, right? Leave the people, I guess. I don't know. That's a hard thing. What do you want to kind of leave as a reminder to our conversation? I think that going out there and starting right now, I think that's a big thing. I think you just have to go and just do whatever you have, whatever, if it's just a laptop or you have to go to use a computer at the library, whatever you have, go out there and try to do it right now and move baby steps if you have to until you achieve what you want.
Duct tape and cardboard.
Duct tape and cardboard, man. And I actually got pretty inspired with it the other day when I saw it. You look at it and you go, wow. And I have the other one in my hand and I'm like, yes, okay. That's a good measurement, and then you use that motivation to move forward. So do what you have to do right now. Try to look at life maybe in a beautiful way, or what can you see that's beautiful? And, check us out at doobtool.com and check out what we're doing. And, we really rely on support. We're not allowed to sponsor any ads on social media at all. So that aspect of that platforms that are really big to a 21st century startup,
right?
We don't have the ability to use those. So we really depend on a lot of support from the community, a lot of support from the city, a lot of support from hometown, and we're always here if you ever want to contact us and talk to us and ideas or collaborations or anything, just shoot ideas. We're just always down to listen. And
where can people shoot them if they want to?
You can check us out at on Instagram at the Doob Tool. You can check it out on www.doobtool.com. You check us all out there. We have everything posted up there, and just shoot us a DM, whatever way you want to get an email us and say.
Quick before you go, tell us the people. About your trip to Colombia.
Oh,
quickly.
Colombia was amazing. We had an absolute blast. Started off a little rough, but as soon as we got everything organized with our lost baggage, we put those bags on our back and we just went. And it was some of the most beautiful people you'll ever meet. I got to meet in face to face and have a moment in time with somebody that lives in Colombia, and it's cool. And everything down there was overcoming a lot of adversity, and it's inspiring to see, and the place is absolutely beautiful. I would say it's going to be one of those really touristy places in the next 15 years. Like, it's
really?
The people are amazing, the food's amazing, the climate's amazing. Colombia's where it's at for sure.
It's 30 degrees in the middle of February here, right?
That's it. Sitting there, and then came home and got hit with the that walk out of the airport when you come home, bang, just
mean. Welcome back to Atlantic, Canada.
Amazing, man. It's great to be back.
Yes.
Man.
Well, listen, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Great chat. You're gonna have to come back.
Listen, I'll come back in a heartbeat.
You're gonna have to come back because this was good. I feel like you and Lo would have good vibes together too.
100%. I'd love to just let's do it. Create whatever, man. I'm up for it.
We shall.
Awesome, brother. Thank you,
listen,
man.
Thank you to everybody for listening. This is the Changing the Narrative podcast. Deuce.